Hey guys, so this is going to be the part two to the questions and answers video. I have my tiny Santa Muerte statue here. I'm at the park and I just wanted to record it here with you guys. So, um, the first question was, this is not verbatim, but I got the gist of what they were trying to say. First question was, what is my opinion on having a multiple different statues on an altar? Should you have multiple cups of water and or candles? And they also wanted to know about shots of tequila. So, in my opinion, and from what I have learned so far, it doesn't matter if you have a bunch of Santa Muerte statues of different colors. 1 cup of water is more than enough. Now, what you can do is what I was taught was that 1 glass of water can be her offering. And then if you want to have, for example, another cup of water, and tell her, by the way, if you can hear kids crying in the background, like I said, I'm in the park. You can have another glass of water and say, Santa Muerte, this other glass of water is going to be here to absorb all the negative energy from me. This other cup is, it's an offering to you, but this cup of water over here is going to be specifically dedicated to absorbing all the negative energy of my days. So that is something that you can do. Now, it's not necessary to have multiple cups of waters. Like for each statue, 1 cup of water dedicated to Santa Muerte is more than enough. Remember that they're not a bunch of different spirits. It's the same spirits, just different different aspects of her. Okay, so it's the same spirit. You don't need to have 1 cup of water for each robe that you have on your altar. Same thing goes for candles. And this was actually something that I used to question myself in the beginning, and then I learned that it's not necessary. For example, if let's say I was working with the red one, I felt kind of obligated to have like a red candle, but no, it's not necessary. Again, you can have multiple different statues and have 1 candle. Could be white, white is fine. But the same concept as the cup. If you can have a working candle, and then you can have another candle that is just dedicated to her, consecrated for her as an offering to her. It could be like a thank you candle, and then the other one could be like a working candle, something like that. Shots of tequila. Now, this is a topic that I think if I were to talk to some people in Mexico, for example, that are devotees of Santa Muerte, they would probably disagree, because I know a lot of people that are from Mexico, in Mexico, that have their altars, and they're like, that is one of the must-haves on her altar. But I don't necessarily agree. The way I was taught is for you to have a working altar. One of the ways, that he teaches to have a working altar, you don't want to have a glass of tequila on her altar all the time. Why? Because you're always going to have a drunk saint, and she's never going to work. You should always give the offerings depending on the results that you are looking for, what it is that you want. You want them to relate or to coincide with what it is that you're asking for. Okay, so for example, when you would give an apple, for example, or a fruit, is you could give her a fruit and say, Santa Muerte, I'm giving you this offering of this fruit, so that in return you may also let me be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Meaning that you make enough money to the point where you're able to also enjoy the fruits of your labor. So you see what I mean? That kind of situation where the offering represents what it is that you're asking for in return. So the people in Mexico, a lot of people in Mexico that are devotees of Santa Muerte, they always have salt on their altar. They always have shots of tequila. They always have water. They always have a candle on. There are things that they're like, she always has to have that because she likes that, and you want to keep her happy, type of situation. And if it works for them, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I think this is where you really need to meditate with her and to see what it is that, how is it that you feel inclined, what resonates with you, and then trial and error. Try it. If it works for you, if you feel good energy from her, then continue doing it. Like I said, I don't necessarily, there's a wrong and the right way when it comes to like things like that. It's just different ways that people, work with her. So that is the first question. All right, guys, question 2. Question 2 is basically, how do you dispose or what do you do with the things on her altar, like food, fruits, candy? The person was asking, what do you do, for example, with the fruits? They said, I know that when the fruits go bad, you obviously throw them away. Now, I'm gonna address that first. So, I can't say I never have, because I have. There's been times where I'm like, okay, I'm in a rush, I need to do this, which you shouldn't even do that. But I don't want to say I never throw anything away. Yes, I did throw things away when they were going bad. Preferably, and pretty much almost all the time, I actually either, I let it, like for example, when I lived in this apartment, what I would do is that right next to my front door, there was like a little patch of grass. That was like the designated disposing of spiritual things patch of grass. So that's where I would throw like I would bury the apple, stuff like that, right? Or there was times I threw it in a lake, like when it was going bad. I left it under a tree. Basically, I gave it back to nature, right? I released those energies into nature. So that is what I would recommend to you guys, is that fruits, like bread, when it starts going bad, you want to dispose of it, like try to dispose of it and back to nature, not necessarily in the trash. Although I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I don't know, I just feel like it's more respectful, right? Let's see. Now, the person also asked, well, what about things that don't really go bad? Like a bar of chocolate, for example. It could be sitting on the altar for a month, and then they're like, well, what do I do with it? So what I would recommend, now, I have heard, and I asked this question before, I would ask, is it okay to, because I heard that some people would say that it was okay to eat it. I have eaten it before at a, like I would say, okay, Santa Muerte, I'll, even though the energy is gone of the object, the energy is gone, and people say they could even taste the difference. I can't say that I fully taste the difference, although it does taste a little more dull. That's how I can explain it. I have eaten some bars of chocolate after they've been on her altar for a while, things that were not opened and stuff like that. Like, I have eaten it before. In a very respectful way, right? Like, you don't just want to take it and eat it because you're craving it. Let her know, I don't want to throw this food away because it is food at the end of the day. I know that you probably took the energy away, like, talk to her, tell her, and then you eat it. Now, the person also mentioned in this comment, in this question, they said, this was not part of their question, but I want to point it out, okay? They said, because I don't just want to have everything buried under, there's like basically having Santa Muerte buried under a pile of stuff. Absolutely, that's correct, right? You should not. And you shouldn't even have that many things on her altar, like a bunch of fruit, a bunch of drinks, a bunch of candy. Goes back to the same, what I was talking about in the same question. Unless you're doing a manda, unless it was a manda, then I don't understand why you would have that many things on her altar. You don't want to be offering her things constantly, because when you offer her something, it has to be because you're asking for something in return. Or it could just be out of gratitude. Like, if you know she's been helping you, if you feel, if you just want to show gratitude for the bond that you two are having, that's okay. But what I'm trying to say is, don't make it a habit of always having her altar full of things. You don't want to get the spirit accustomed to that. If you guys haven't watched it, I have a video called Spoiling Spirits. Is there such a thing? Watch it, okay? You don't want to have the altar full of stuff. So that's question 2. Let's see here. The third question is, can I share my altar with another devotee? So, the only reason I would say don't do it, unless you absolutely have to, is because remember that the altar has your energy. The things on your altar have your energy. That is your relationship with her. So for example, like I've said in the other questions, when you're giving her offerings and you put them on the altar, and obviously you're giving offerings so that she can in return give you something, there's an exchange of energy happening there. You know what I mean? It's not only her energy on the altar that you're taking from and that somebody else may be taking from. You're also putting your energy, your prayers, I just feel like it would be a little chaotic. And so no, I would not recommend it for that reason. But if you don't have any other option, here's the thing. All right. So when it comes to an altar, now we need to clarify something. So when you say, can I share an altar? So what's the purpose that you would want to share an altar? The only reason why, let's say, you would share an altar and you would have to quote unquote share it is to be able to give her bigger offerings. For example, right? Let's say you move in with like a family member and they are a devotee of Santa Muerte and they have their own altar, and all you have is a little statue because let's say you've been working with her a couple months or whatever, and I don't know, let's just say that you don't have any other space, like even a night table to put. But what I mean by altar is, you already know, I've said it a million times in my videos. The only thing an altar is, it is a space dedicated to Santa Muerte exclusively. So you can have a candle, you can have a glass of water. You don't even have to have none of that. You could just have a glass of water, even if you didn't have an image, and say, this space is for you. This is where I'm going to come to speak to you, to pray to you. And that is your altar. You know what I mean? So let's say, like I said, that you don't have any, which is pretty impossible, right? But let's just say you don't have any other, or that you just like the fact that they have a humongous altar and you can leave your offerings there. That would be the reason why. Because let's say that you do an amanda, right? Which is like a big, like a big offering, multiple things. Let's say you're going to offer her, I don't know, 7 apples for whatever the reason is. That is the only reason why I would think you would need to share an altar, because if that person had a big space in their altar, then you can leave your offerings there. Again, I don't recommend it because there's a mix of energies happening there. Now, if you're telling me, can I share an altar? Like, I want to have my candle there and my sister also has her candle of devotion to her there. I just don't think it's necessary, because I'm pretty positive that everybody, even if you move into somebody's house and they have a big altar and you're like, oh, I would love to share that altar with you, don't do it. Don't do it because of that. Don't do it because of the way it looks. Remember, it's about the bond. It's about the devotion, okay? Because she may or he may have a really big altar, but you may have a greater connection, and maybe all you have is a little night table next to your bed with a cup of water. So always keep that in mind. Okay, so that's why I'm saying it's not really necessary. Okay, but I just saw the last part to that question. The last part to that question was, I think he's asking, like, because the person that's asking a question has an altar, and he was asking if the family member can pray on his altar or her altar. I wouldn't mind, to be honest with you. So even though what I said right now still stands, if let's say there's somebody who's in a situation where you know that, you know, they can't, you know, like they're trying to create a bond with her, they love her, but for whatever reason they can't, where they live, they can't, you know, nothing, then I would allow them to come to my altar. And, you know, because not everybody is going to fully understand, or they may understand what I was just talking about. It's not necessary. there's something about when you see a Santa Muerte altar. There's something that happens because we're visual creatures, right? So if that person, if it increases their faith, if they feel closer to her, I wouldn't be like, no, you can't, because not like that. You know what I mean? Like, I would allow that person to come and to pray to her, for that day or whatever on my altar. That's not a problem. Because in their mind, as I can explain that a million times, it's not necessary to have an altar. It's about your connection. It's about your devotion, all that stuff. But like I said, there's something beautiful about when you see a Santa Muerte altar, because there was a lot of love that went into a big, beautiful altar with offerings, with her statue. So if there's a person who's increasing in their faith, or who's building a connection with her, or who's going through a difficult time in life, and they would, they really want to come pray at my altar, yes, I would let them. All right, guys, so this is going to be the 3 questions I'm going to answer for now. The reason I'm only going to do 3 is to keep the videos, try to keep them between 10 to 12 minutes. But I am going to be doing a part 3 because there is some other questions that are pending, especially one very interesting one regarding, like, if you have children, like, they asked my opinion. So if you have any questions or would like to book a reading with me or a plática, as well as check out blogs that I have regarding my relationship with other spirits or my experiences with other spirits, the website is brujamexicanatarot.com, and take care.